What's happening, everybody, man? Thank you guys tuning in. Another episode, Coach Code Podcast. And my dear friend and one of the smartest humans on the planet, Mr. Joel Perso. What's up, buddy?
Hey, man. Happy to be here, as always.
As always, man. It's great to have you. You might be out of all the episodes and things, you might be cracking the most times on the show.
Love it.
I know Joe Hollow had that trophy for a while, but definitely a changing direction. So what's going on?
Man, rocking and rolling, trying to figure out some market uncertainty, economic uncertainty, and what that looks like for our business, for our clients' business. So it's been a fun year, a challenging year, and yeah, we're full steam ahead.
So listening in, Joel is COO for Sphere Rocket. I like to tell people when they ask about Sphere Rocket, I mean, you guys are a headhunting talent and training organization. So you guys go find talent. You have all the training and resources available to find talented team members, as well as provide world-class training for them to stay plugged in and continuing to develop their capabilities. And Joel, you and I go back into the real estate team brokerage real estate days. A lot of similarities on the operational side, and then a path to staying on the operational side with VRX Media and kind of working with some buddies and really helping them scale, and really a lot of growth in that within that company, and then being able to now transition and carry it over into Sphere Rocket. And just some context, I mean, we're talking $5+ million revenue companies with VRX and with Sphere Rocket. So you look at most real estate companies, teams, and there's a small percentage that get into the multiple million in revenue range, and so being able to step up into the 5, 6, 7 million range, it's there's problems. A mentor always told me nothing changes but the zeros. So there's a lot of similarities there, but there is that change with the additional revenue and a little more risk, a little more resources, a little more spend. So always interesting.
Yeah.
So what are you seeing, man? I mean, you say market kind of uncertainty. I mean, you guys deal with agents all over the country, and then obviously really pushing team members out of the Philippines. I mean, so you kind of have a global take and a global perspective on really what's going on. And I would love your take, kind of what you guys are seeing, the numbers, the conversations, just kind of any of that viewpoint from where you guys are sitting to what you're seeing moving into the future.
Yeah, definitely. Like you said, we've got clients. I don't know for sure all 50 states, but it's got to be close if it's not, in Canada as well. And so we get an interesting kind of cross section of the real estate community. We've got single agents who are doing 5 to 10 million in volume. We've got teams that are doing close to $1 billion in volume annually, and everything in between. So I got into real estate in 2012. So we were coming out of the recession. Short sales were huge. People were trying to figure out how to survive. And what I'm seeing right now is it's not necessarily the same market, obviously, but a lot of the same attitudes, which means the go-getters are excited about it. They're taking market share, and the average agent who rode the market up is riding the market kind of wherever it takes them. So we're seeing a lot of that kind of really stark contrast between people falling into the scarcity mindset, the fear, and they're shrinking. And then we're seeing the people either who, have the right foundation to survive in any market, or the ones who have been there before, who made it through the recession, 2008 to 2010, and they're ready to go for it. And this is what we're seeing right now is a bump compared to speed bump compared to the car wreck that was the recession. But we're seeing the attitudes kind of fall along the same lines as they did then. So what that means for us at Sphere Rocket is, the average real estate agent might have been a great client for us in 2022, 2021. And the average agent might not be a great client for us anymore. Again, for the ones who are either their business really is suffering, or they're just pulling back and playing small due to the uncertainty. They might not be a good fit anymore for us. So it's been an interesting, thing to watch, and then an interesting, challenge for us to tackle, as big parts of our kind of addressable market really are gone. So really, really interesting, but it seems to be dividing along the same lines: people getting out of the business, people shrinking, and then that top 10, maybe top 20%, not scared and maybe even excited about, some market uncertainty, because they know that's a chance to get market share.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I want to touch on a few things that you said there. And, first, I want to come back to, and you said attitude. And when you really distill everything down and you look at, hey, am I focused in doing what's within my control? And I've been revisiting and listening back to a lot of Ryan Holiday stuff. He's got a great conversation with Jocko on Jocko's podcast, and they go through Ryan's whole timeline. And it's a 4-hour conversation, but it just breaks down all of Ryan's work and in his life. But just revisiting the Stoic philosophy and Stoicism, and really understanding that if you understand, his first book on that in 2014 was The Obstacle is the Way. And, the impediment, the action that becomes the way. And, Ryan talks about really focusing on the things within your control. And Seneca's was, persist and resist. So that's distilling it down to the simplest form. Just continue to persist and resist the things that are out of your control and the things that don't serve you in your life and your business. And I forget where I heard this, but it's so true, because we're always talking about, is that within your control? Are you focused and committed to only the things within your control? Detach from the outcome, focus on what's in your control. And you said attitude. And there's only two things that are 100% within our control 100% of the time. And that's effort and that's attitude. Those are the two things that we always, as humans, that those are the only two things that we have complete control over 100% of the time. And, us being ops guys, numbers guys, we want to play to the favorite. We want to play to the odds. We want to stack the odds in our favor. So we make success almost inevitable. And that's where, you look at, and that's the gut check every day. Am I on the things within my control? Am I putting in the effort? Where is my attitude to this situation? And really, where am I going with that? And so the other thing is that you said, and I believe those that are getting out, that are shrinking, they don't have clarity. They don't have a vision. They're focused on things out of their control. Those that are excited have that mental foundation. And maybe you said through experience, maybe not through experience in real estate, but some type of experience where they work through the adversity and they work through the challenges that they had to work through, and you build on that. Right. And it's one of my favorite sayings, we're all made by doing hard things. And so if you can tap into that cookie jar whenever you need it, when things are hard, for me, that's why I like doing the endurance stuff, because, you get through 100 miles, everything else is pretty easy. And so the challenges of difficult conversations, the challenges of, patience, looking at the business, you don't panic as much when you have, like you said, that experience to always kind of lean and breathe into and pull from. But I would love your take, because you said one of the first things is that they have a strong foundation. What do you mean by that? What is a strong foundation in small business right now?
Yeah, two things really come to mind. And at the beginning of this year, I reread Gary Keller's book Shift. And just kind of I read that first, actually, and must have been when it first came out, because it's been years. But one of the things he talks about is if you've never had to develop good habits in the business because the market's been so good, you got into real estate and you just started going up because the market was going up. If the market's going up 20% a year and your business is just following the market, it looks like you're doing great, right? But you've never had to develop the good habits. So what does that look like? A strong financial foundation, getting money in the bank, core capital, reserves. We still use Crabtree's 2 months of core capital, at all times. That gives us the freedom to be more aggressive. If you've never had to develop really good lead generation or prospecting habits because deals were, falling in your lap, never had to develop really great, post-close follow-up so you can get that lifetime value from a client, because they were just, again, the deals were coming. So I think the silver lining for anybody who's struggling with it is, again, this is a speed bump compared to a car wreck of the recession. And so if this is the thing that forces you to start developing some of those, good habits and that strong foundation, this is a storm that shouldn't be hard to weather. There are still markets in the country that are barely feeling anything, and whether that levels out, goes down, goes up, we'll see. But if it's spooked you enough, there's plenty of time and plenty of deals happening to correct those things, get on the right footing. And then the other thing that Justin and I talk about, Justin's the founder of Sphere Rocket, my boss, is we're always looking for the right balance of, being aggressive and being safe. And so what that means for us is we took a little extra profit and, put it in reserve, put it in core capital instead of reinvesting everything. And so when we see, some market uncertainty, and it's affected us for sure, we don't have anything to worry about because we weren't flooring it so hard that any disruption was going to cause an issue for us. And so there's that tricky balance of we don't want to miss an opportunity when the market's good, but we don't want to overextend ourselves so that we're vulnerable when the market turns. And that's tricky because, the conventional wisdom, and it happens in every generation in a good market, is go all out, over leverage your investments, put every dollar back into profit, spend. And for 4 or 5 years, we all look like geniuses if we do that because we're crushing it. But then, once there's a hiccup, the speed bump, we find out that we overextended. The market doesn't go up forever. And unfortunately, every generation seems to need to learn that the hard way. But there's in my opinion, at least, there's a balance to be found between, flooring it, and being willing to give up a little bit of that upside right now so that we're on a stronger foundation for when things do change. And fortunately, that's what we did in 2022. We could have put every cent into the events that we were doing, into our Facebook ads campaigns, because they were crushing it. But we would have got into 2023. The events landscape is shrinking a little bit. Organizers are having a hard time filling up rooms, and we would have been hurting. So it's tough to make the conscious decision to give up a little bit of that upside right now, not fully capitalize on the opportunity, but put yourself on a stronger footing. And for us, I think we found the right balance of that between Justin and I. He wanted to move faster, I want to move slower. That's usually how it goes, and we end up in the middle. But it put us on good footing for whatever happens this year and into next year.
It's that goal and mean, right? That there's too much and not enough, right? And it's just finding that right balance. And sometimes it takes that who to level that out for you. We're not all sometimes disciplined to find that mean, right? That good balance. And so sometimes having a who, either within the organization, accountability partner, mentor, and for a lot of people, they need a good coach that can help them, with that, because I think a good coach is going to push you sidelines if you're hanging out there, and then they're also going to kind of pull you back in for a breather if you're out running wide open. So I think it's just a great lesson. You had mentioned too, I think a lot of it, because there's a lot of agents have gotten away because deals were coming, so they could just look over the next 30, 45 days with closings, and they're like, hey, I got, I'm good financially, but they don't understand that runway, 60, 90 days down the road, and taking a look at it. But that's where foundationally, like, it just, the best principles, the best book, like it's crab trees. And I like, of what Macklewitz talks about with profit first. And so, but what I like about with the profit first is a modified version of it. And so, kind of using some of his percentage examples, and then how does that lay in with Crabtree? So it's kind of a modified between those two concepts, and really finding that right mix. But a lot of people, they're just they have no clue with that, right? Or they have it kind of on point, but the last 24, 36 months, they were so reactive, they got away from it. And that's what I would tell everybody right now is get your house in order, get your financials, get clear, consistent reporting. You're looking at it no more than every 7 days. Like, just build that first. And then you can look at, okay, well, what do I need to see for sales and marketing? And once I know kind of my numbers on the back end where the cash flow and the money's flowing, and then it's just like, fall in love. It's just funny, right? Fall in love with Sam, sales and marketing. And that's where you've got to put all of your energy, time, effort. And as a head of your company, even if you're an agent within an organization, you still have your own business within the business. And where is the deficit that you have? And I think a lot of agents have a deficit on their skills. They have a lot of, I think everybody could use something for the mental, the mindset, recharging themselves every day. That their ecosystem, who they're plugged into, will really help with that. One thing that I've been thinking about a lot here lately too, Joel, was, we know it's just code and combination to unlock anything in our life. And it's the environment to results ratio, right? So environment and circumstance drives the way we think. If we think the same thing for an extended period of time, it starts to form a belief, and those then form how we feel. How we feel determines the action or the inaction we're going to take, and action over time forms habits and creates that behavior, and then in return drives the results. And so we could easily just skip a lot of that stuff in the middle and go, okay, if I'm not getting the results, I might be in the wrong environment. And then because that environment's not allowing me to think the way I need to think to work through this situation, or work through this problem. But the thing that I've been thinking about is just overlays it is standards. It's just like, what's the standard that you have within your environment, your organization? What's the standard that you have in the way you think? What's the standard in how you feel and what you accept? And what's the standard in your habits and your behavior? Because that will then return the standards you have in your results. And, it's one of my all-time favorite quotes, and it came from, your old business partner, Dan Bunch. And he said it in Vegas and didn't even realize he said it. And we were all like, whoa, hold on, stop. What'd you just say? And, he said, the only stuff are the standards you enforce.
Yeah.
And that's probably one of the powerful things that you can, standards overlie everything. And it's just like, we say on our team, hey, the minimum standard is X number of conversations per week. Well, whoever the lowest denominator of that person that you're allowing to skate by, that is your standard. Yeah. So I think really doing a hard gut check there is critical.
Yeah, I really like the way in what you do is who you are. Ben Horowitz book on culture. It's the same principle, but he comes at it from the other way, which is that whatever you're allowing to happen is setting the new standard. So and that I like that, just kind of flipping it around of like, what am I allowing to happen right now? Because that's my standard. And it doesn't matter what I say the standard is. What I'm allowing to happen in my life or in my business is my standard.
No, I love that. That book from Horowitz is probably one of the best books on culture.
Yeah.
He just really just rips it apart and puts it into, those terms just like that. And, it's the how you do anything is how you do everything, but that's who you are, right? That's what you're allowing becomes the standard. So, what are some foundational things, people kind of listening in, that if they haven't kind of consumed or gathered the concepts or the takeaways, they should really kind of dive into it. Even if they get the Cliff Notes versions to pull the principles out to be able to tell, what are some of those foundational things that if they haven't consumed, or if they have, they might want to read it. What are some of those things in your opinion that, small business owners, because that's what that's what these real estate agents have to understand. They have to take this and look at it like a business. The 10 to 20% that are gaining, they're running it like a business. And so kind of from your take, like what's kind of foundational that they need to consume, get the concepts, get the principle, and if maybe they have, they may be really good to revisit.
Yeah, you bet. I mean, we touched on it already. I think start with Crabtree, that book, Simple Numbers, Straight Talk, Big Profits. And I think what gets missed a lot in that book, especially by people who are already making a lot of money, is the book is really about positioning. It's about positioning your company. And what people get hung up on, I think, is when you go through it for the first time, it seems like maybe this is a little too conservative. Maybe I should be looking for some more aggressive growth strategies, some more aggressive, tax strategies. And they miss the big get from that book is that if you implement those strategies, it leads you to being able to be aggressive with no risk. And that's what we miss, is like there's so much freedom on the other side of implementing those things. We've got 2 months of core capital in the bank, which for Sphere Rocket is several $100,000. Yeah. We can invest every dollar of profit that we have right now and be way more aggressive because we have that buffer. And it took us a while to build that up, and we moved slower on some things before we built that up. But now we can. I don't have to miss any opportunities right now because we took the time to do that. So I can be way more aggressive with almost no risk, because in 2 months of expenses, I can see anything coming. I can see a huge drop in sales performance, in our ad performance, and lead generation. I can see that coming in plenty of time to turn off that ad spend on Facebook, or to pause some of the events that we're getting involved with. So I'm actually able to be more aggressive than most people because we've took the time, and it felt stuffy and conservative and slow for a little bit there. But on the other side of that, we're positioned now that we're not going to miss any opportunities. But we're also, again, part of that foundation is, being responsible about our expenses. We look at our salary cap, right? Of how much we're spending in payroll, and is that going to allow us to hit the numbers that we want to profit wise? So our company's positioned to take advantage of opportunities, but to not be battered by some things going wrong. So I think that's the piece that gets missed a lot. Is it might not be super fun to implement some of those things, but on the other side of that, there's way more freedom and such a better position. So Crabtree, especially if you're worried about the money right now, that's probably number one for me.
Yeah.
And then I'd go back to Traction, looking at the EOS system, or scaling up. I think if you don't have a framework in your business for how you think about, the different departments, the different functions, EOS from Traction, Gino Wickman, is probably the easiest one to implement. I like scaling up. I think scaling up is more powerful, but it's also a lot more complicated. So I think most people probably make sense to start with EOS. And and what we're talking about with EOS, with Crabtree, with all these things, that I think is such an important reminder. Like you always say, we need to be reminded more than we need to be told. Is this whole conversation's about, be brilliant with the basics. There's nothing earth shattering, groundbreaking here. But if you don't have a great meeting rhythm in your business, if you don't have your vision, your mission, your values mapped out, if you don't have a strategic planning and execution process, like these are the things that you've probably heard 100 times. But they really are the foundation, and the foundation's not that complicated. I think that's part of the good news. As you worry about your business, the economy, the market, things like that, it's not that complicated, and it doesn't have to be that time consuming. You always talk right things, right order. And I would just go back to that, right things, right order. Is the vision clear? Is the strategy clear? Are the goals clear? And then you go back and ask yourself, are you sure that they're clear? Sometimes we think they are and they're not. And then I think when we start talking about execution, it's clarity and accountability. What are we working on right now? What does success look like? How are we going to measure that? And how are we going to hold each other accountable to doing our part of that part of execution? So that's the stuff we're focused on. We're focused on the basics right now. Are we as clear as we think we are about our priorities, about what projects we're working on to move the ball forward? Are we absolutely sure we've got the right metrics in place for evaluating our lead generation campaigns? Is the team accountability in place for the activities, the effort, right, of converting those leads? Is the sales team dialed in on their sales presentation so that we maximize conversion? So I think, if we're out here looking for the next big thing, the silver bullet, I think the comfort should be, get back to basics and make sure you're brilliant at the basics.
Yeah, it is. I just, was just thinking of the situations we've been in, but agents, clients that have executed on these things, and the freedom that it gives them. Had a gentleman that had a family incident that pulled him away from the business for a few weeks, and he had a brand new, like, really key hire that had started, and he had already implemented the cadence in the calendar, and it freed him of wondering, okay, what is she going to do? When am I going to check in with her? Like, everything. Like, it was just, it gave him that freedom because he had the meeting cadence and the rhythm. And I think, once you get, kind of the how the money's going to flow, and what are the initiatives, and what are kind of the the financial milestones that we have to progress through, then having that cadence and meeting rhythm of how we communicate, and then how we get work done, because that creates what you said is that accountability, but it also gives you the chance to revisit and be clear. And, just even the simple of, starting every meeting with positive focus, but then immediately asking, the Oprah question of what is the intent of this meeting? And so even down to being clear about what we're trying to communicate and achieve in this given time that we have together, just those little things like that, I'm with you with scaling up. It is much more impactful and powerful. It is a whole nother level to be able to consume and comprehend. I think, stepping back down into mastering the Rockefeller habits is really good to really revisit. There's a lot of similarities. I mean, obviously, Gino was a student of Vern's, so that's where you see the similarities with traction that you pull from mastering the Rockefeller habits and scaling up. So I think just whatever you resonate with. I mean, obviously we operate within EOS just because, like you said, it's easier for team members to digest and get on board with. And so I think that's great, right? That's how we get the work done. And then I think everything else needs to fall around your sales and marketing processes. What are you doing to generate opportunities? How many opportunities do you need? What's working? What's not working? How do you communicate with those people? How do you, handle the conversation, question based, getting from their point A to their point B, how to articulate your value, how to deliver on the value. And then how do you create those super fans? How do you create those raving fans? How do you create that lifetime value in the process? And I tell you, I had, I was reading 35 to 40 to 50 books a year for like a 10-year stretch. And I've noticed I've really backed off. I've really been more in the podcast kind of space, consuming more and listening to more conversations. And like I like jumping on Rogan because like when he has certain people, because usually they're jumping in because they have a book they're about to push out, or they have a new material they're about to push out. So you get behind the scenes in the stories of those. Mylett does the same thing, right? A lot of people that jump on Ed's show, they have books they're about to push out. So you get the principles and the concepts and everything from there. But I made a decision, I haven't even told anybody, but I made a decision that I was like, if I had to pick 5 books over the next 12 months, and that's all I can read, and I can consume and just go deep, and might have been sparked from Holiday, right? Because that's what he says. He says, there's really only a couple dozen books that you should read, and you can read those for the rest of your life, and you're like, you'll live the most magnificent, brilliant life ever. And I was like, okay, well, if I could distill it down to 5, what 5 would those be? And I haven't gone all the way through Meditations. So that's one to go back and revisit and just dive in deep in there. The other one that really overlays a lot of even Vern's stuff and Gino's stuff, Beyond Entrepreneurship. And so, Beyond Entrepreneurship 2.0, that has, the people component, that has the leadership component, and then just his additions and takes. I grabbed Jay Abraham's book, Get Everything Out of Get Everything Out of Everything That You've Got, right? And going back in and really realizing that, there's only a handful of ways for us to exponentially grow our businesses and get more clients, expand the value of that client, and get your clients to buy more often. And just, that's that gut check too. It's like, okay, well, how do we get more clients? Well, how do we make the client's value that much bigger? And you look at it, even real estate, it's like, okay, can we up our average sales price? Are we protecting and getting the most amount of commission we can? Is our transaction fee, do we have one? Can we expand upon that?
Yep.
So there's like all the ways that you start to think to unlock that. And then, so, then how do you get them to buy more often? And within real estate, it's just staying in front of them. You look for those raving fans that kind of take that investment type of approach. Maybe they can invest, maybe they can help you, push more referrals, things like that to help grow there. And then, I think from a marketing perspective, just where I'm at. So diving into Russell Brunson's book, Expert Secret, Garrett did the forward on, is just kind of staying in that marketing space. Actually taking that from Jay Abraham's stuff. And then, I don't know if you remember the Straight Line Leadership book that, that to me is probably the best leadership book ever. Nobody knows about it. That's what I like. It's one of those that it is definitely the book that has the most highlights and marks and pages and notes. And so those are the 5 that, I'm going to rock with until, July of next year, and just go as deep as I can and extract and out of that. So I'd be curious, if you had to just carry 5 with you and that's it, that's all you could dive into, what would those be?
Oh man, it's tough for me, and I'll tell you why it's tough for me is because right now I'm in a different space with my reading, where I'm trying to read things that I'm curious about, and just trying to expand my like super basic knowledge of a whole bunch of different stuff. So like I've been reading books on macroeconomics, the Federal Reserve. I read a philosophical physics book just because I heard a guy on a podcast and he was super interesting. So that's the kind of that's the mode that I'm in right now, is trying to increase just I want to have more awareness of more things. And I don't, certainly not an expert, maybe even can't talk intelligently about many of those things. But what I like about it is for me is, as I'm exposed to more and more things, I might learn just enough to make me question something that I hear on a little bit deeper level and say, I'm not sure about that. I'm not going to accept that without, thinking about it deeper or without looking into that a little bit more. I mean, I've been to so many conferences, and this certainly isn't to brag. It's just because I read a lot. So many conferences, so many events and conversations where somebody, a speaker on stage says something, doesn't say that it's from that book, and the whole audience is like, oh wow, this is incredible stuff. And I'm like, I read that book,
Yeah.
And so I want to have a little bit more awareness and more things so that my bullshit detector gets better. I'm better able to assess the credibility of the people that I'm learning from and listening to. So that's kind of the space I'm in right now. But on the 5, man, I would say absolutely for me, Beyond Entrepreneurship is on there. That I would say that's probably the single most formative business book that I've ever read. I just loved it. I read it at such a critical time too. That's when we were getting ready to launch Vesta, launch the brokerage back in the day. Everything was new for me at that time. I was a young business person, young leader. So that one was so formative. But every time I jump back into it, and I've read it 3 or 4 times now, that one would be there. I think that's almost like a business Bible for me, where it's going to be evergreen principles in there. Another one, speaking of principles, Ray Dalio's book Principles. Again, I think that one's a never-ending source of wisdom, and you could spend a lot of time on any one of the principles, much less all of the sections. So that one's definitely big. And yeah, let me think. I loved Blue Ocean Strategy. I'm not sure if that would make the short list, but I've been thinking about it recently as we just look to get creative with our strategy and try to open up new markets for us. That one was pretty formative. Extreme Ownership, another one that's been really formative for me as a leader. And if I could combine Extreme Ownership with the Dichotomy of Leadership, their follow-up book, that would make like the completed version of that tome.
Yes, it is. That's
another
that
one that comes to
dichotomy
mind.
of leadership. That's that golden mean, right? There's
Yeah.
Too much alcohol, no alcohol. There's too much red meat, not enough red meat. You know what I mean? It's like everything.
Yes.
He does that within leadership, and he brings it all together. And
Yeah.
I'm with you. It does complete that. It does complete if you just bring it all together. That would be that would be good.
Yeah. If they ever publish a combined version, I'd pick that up right away. Man, the Creator's Code is another one I've been diving back into.
I never went down
that.
I never jumped into that. I remember Jake at NAEA was all about it, and he felt like I didn't need to read it. He just kept telling me all the nuggets and takeaways and this and that, and yeah, that definitely is interesting.
Yeah, and I think one of the reasons I like the Creator's Code so much is a lot of it is about creativity being an iterative process instead of not just an inspiration process. And so I think, and that resonates with me because the way that my creativity kind of manifests itself is not necessarily with original ideas, but it's putting together ideas maybe in original ways. So I like that the creative process can be an iterative process and not just dependent on stroke of genius or being inspired by something with some brand new idea. So, and those are a few that jump out to me. I haven't read as many of the Stoics, the source material, but The Obstacle is a Way was a powerful one. I think we lost John here. Let's see if he's back in. Otherwise, I'll talk at you guys for a little while. But yeah, I mean, I like the idea. I heard Darren Hardy say at one of the exponential growth summits that, you shouldn't read 10 books, you should read one book 10 times. And I disagreed with that at the time, again, because I read so broadly. I'm curious about so many things and want to expose myself to more things. But I think that, but there's a lot of power in, picking the most powerful books and diving deep, rereading, getting more and more, takeaways each time you read it. Hey, sorry, we lost you there.
Oh man, I told you, I didn't know how long gonna last. So we made a good run. We made a good over 40-minute run. So just surprised it lasted that long. It's been a disaster here the last week or so.
Got it. Does that cuts the live stream?
No, we're still going.
Oh, we're good. All right.
You just keep over.
I was talking about kind of the same thing, the space that you're in about, rereading the best books. At one of the EGS that Darren Hardy spoke at, he said, I don't remember the number, but essentially don't read the same book, or don't read 10 books, read the same book 10 times. Mm-hmm. And I was thinking about how I disagreed with it at the time, because I felt like I have so much to learn and so much to expose myself to. And the older I get, the more value I see in that approach. Yeah. Of, all books are certainly not created equal. And if you spend time on the classics, you'll never stop getting value from them.
I think, you start to look, oh, this is where they drew that stuff from. Oh, that's what they pulled this from. Right. As you start to see, like, I read where the source of this. Yeah. And I think, the other thing, because maybe just because brought up and, hey, finish it. I think one of the most freeing things for me was that it's okay to put a book down. If you got what you needed from it at the moment, put it down. Yeah. There's no reason to keep trying to push through it. Just because you started it doesn't mean you have to finish it. And I think giving yourself that permission is really gold. So yeah, it really is. I think you gotta always be consuming and learning. And I love where you're at in the headspace of just question everything. And I get a lot of that too. That's why I always gravitate back, because he questions everything. He doesn't believe anything. He has an opinion on it, but then he's like, I'm open to being wrong. Yeah. And I think that, Elon's quote, it's been kind of ringing in my head quite a bit lately of, I know I'm wrong, but I'm just trying to be less wrong. And that's kind of that question around, hey, where are we missing? Where are we wrong? How do we need to be looking at this differently? How do we need to be thinking about this differently? And I think that's kind of that leadership evolution, is moving from, hey, I got to have the ideas, to no, I got to have the questions. And because that question, that's all our thinking. And even if we start asking ourselves better questions, lead to, breakthroughs and ahas, and, those in the moments that you're like, got it. Let me write that down.
Yep.
What, so for you guys, you guys are in a great position. Where are you at, moving into this last half of the year? Where are you guys kind of focused and kind of committed to?
Yeah, like I said earlier, we're well positioned right now, and we did that intentionally. So we paused some marketing campaigns earlier this year. We reduced the number of events that we're sponsoring to just make sure we're running really lean. We're a virtual assistant company, so we're focused on growing our virtual assistant team in the Philippines, as opposed to growing our US team. So again, being really mindful of that salary cap. And so because of that, we can take some swings, do some experiments right now that we might not have been able to. So we are, second half of this year, we are 100% focused on lead generation and new client acquisition. So we got plenty of work to do, like we always will, to get better. Every area of our company needs to get better, so we're not saying, not denying that fact, but all of our, excuse me, all of our energy, all of our focus is on client acquisition. So we're looking at, all right, maybe the large conventions aren't the right thing to do right now, because if they're filled up with the average real estate agent, maybe that's not a good fit for us. Maybe we're better served spending the same amount of money, but getting into a 50-person, 7-figure mastermind, things like that. So we're tweaking the strategies that have been working to try to get in front of the right people. How can we refocus our Facebook ad spend to try to get more into top producers? Or can we have qualifying questions within the lead registration form that lets us know who's probably going to be a bad fit for us? Things like that. We're launching a much expanded affiliate program. So it's something that we never spent enough time with getting affiliate partners on board. We've got a lot of people who are happy clients. We've got a lot of people who believe in Justin, believe in what we're doing, and we never had a solution for how they can get involved, make some money for themselves, and send their referrals our way. So launching some things like that, and then we're looking at how can we better leverage our time. So in some of the time that Justin's going to be in the office instead of on the road because we're doing fewer events, how do we get him on bigger and better podcasts so that he can, knock out a few big audiences in a day instead of having to travel and knock out, one per week. So looking for some things like that. But yeah, we're focused on client acquisition. We're at the stage where that's really all we need to do, and on our roadmap of growth and things we want to add to the program. All those things require us to get to that next level financially. And so that's where we're focused. So when we hit that next level financially, we already know the things we're going to do. We know the hires we're going to make. We know the programs we're going to implement. We know the value adds we're going to bring to our clients and to our program. But right now we just got to hit that next level of growth. So that's really all we're focused on. And it should parallel our real estate, clients as well. That's probably where you need to be focused right now, and probably nowhere else. Of course, there's teams who are not suffering right now and they're focused on their systems. And but yeah, man, it should be lead generation and conversion right now, and that's it.
That's it, man. Couldn't agree more, brother. Appreciate you. And as always, just coming in, adding value, wealth of knowledge and information. And I know we'll do it again.
Yeah, always look forward to it, man. So anytime.
You got it, bud. Thanks. We'll see you guys.
Take care.